Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has expressed satisfaction with the zoning of the People's Democratic Party presidential ticket to the south, saying he had to give up his ambition to allow the decision pull through. Addressing journalists, the Bauchi governor said he was part of the decision regarding the zoning. Meanwhile, Moro has said the PDP regretted fielding Atiku as its presidential candidate in the 2023 general election. Senator Abba Moro describing the move as an error that cost the party dearly. Moro revealed that the party's National Executive Committee made a bold decision to zone its 2027 presidential ticket to the southern region, a move he insisted was rooted in fairness, equity, and justice. Well, moving on to other stories, President Bola Tinubu has assured Nigerians in Brazil that his administration will fast-track development by prioritizing technology and food security. At an interactive session with the Nigerian community in the country, the president said Nigeria must catch up with countries like Brazil through reforms and innovation. He urged the diaspora to support government policies despite the hardship caused by economic adjustments. On concerns about opening consulates in Sao Paulo and other cities, Tinubu asked for patience, saying the government is managing limited resources to keep existing foreign missions running efficiently.
I'm proudly standing before you, making a commitment to all of you that Nigeria will be changed for the good of all of us and for the benefit and prosperity of all our citizens. We give priority to development. Once upon a time, we can look back on history with heart that Brazil and Nigeria were on the same level of development. Look at us today and look at Brazil. It is necessary for you to be challenged, and we are. Personally, I am challenged.
From now till morning, we'll be reeling out all the reforms that Mr. President has done. But what I want to tell you is that Nigeria has changed. It is not the Nigeria of yesteryear. This is it. You have a destination. Everyone. Nigeria is now a darling of everyone. Everyone wants to come to Nigeria. And I'm happy that our brothers and sisters in Brazil are not being left behind. They are gearing up to join us. In any case, we've had 350 years of slavery. We are now changing that. Like President Lula said yesterday, it's not just for economy. It's not just for financial re-engineering. It is also a connection of history, of culture, of tradition, and of common heritage and humanity that all of us crave to have.
I've never denied the fact that we do have challenges, Malcolm. Yes, we know, but we have stopped complaining and we have chosen to work. What we're saying, sir, is that here through the diaspora, we would like to be a channel to this national development, sir.
Also in Brazil, Nigeria's Minister of Information, Mohamed Idris, spoke on the impact of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government in 2 years.
In just 2 years, everything has happened in Nigeria, from the major reforms that the president has instituted, removal of subsidy, unification of the foreign exchange, and all the other reforms. And only yesterday, Mr. President, listening to President Lula, he said something about the reformation of their tax system here. This is something that I know took a long struggle to do in Nigeria. But Mr. President was insisting because he knew the direction that he was going. He insisted, and today we have a tax regime that will help all the reform program of Mr. President in our country. Our children that are unable to go to school on account of the fact that either their parents or their guardians are unable for them to pay for their school fees. It's no longer the case. As we speak, over 90 billion naira has already been committed to that. Students are no longer going out of school simply on account of the inability of their parents or guardians not to pay for their school fees or for their upkeep. I think this is very, very important. This from north to south, from east to west, nobody, you don't need to know anyone. Just as Governor Obasani has said, you don't need to know anyone to get anything from the central bank. You don't need to know anyone to enroll in school. Once you are able to go to school, you will be able to go to school today. This is unprecedented. It has never happened in the history of our country. And all the reforms that is president, you talked about livestock. This is a potentially over 30 trillion naira economy. My brothers and sisters from the northern part of the country, before now, the livestock ministry was just a unit.
All concerned federal government ministries and agencies will today, Thursday, meet in Abuja in a bid to resolve the lingering areas of disagreement between the Academic Staff Union of Universities and the government. Several branches of ASUU had on Tuesday staged coordinated protests across campuses nationwide to press home long-standing demands from the federal government, warning of an imminent strike if the government failed to meet their demands. But the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, told This Day last night that the Bola Tinubu administration has already resolved a number of the knotty issues it met when it took over the reins of governance, assuring the lecturers that the matter will be settled in a wholesome manner this time around. Alausa noted that he has already called a meeting of several ministries and departments, including that of Finance, Labour and Productivity, Budget Office, Solicitor General, Salaries and Wages Commission, among others, to iron out a counter-proposal to the one presented by the union. Admitting that the matter has lingered for about 16 years, Alausa noted that this time around, the Tinubu administration will be very meticulous about resolving the pending issues, explaining that when thrashed out, the counter-proposal will be handed over to the Yayale Ahmed Committee. And in other news, Access Holdings today announces the appointment of Mr. Innocent Ike as the substantive Group Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the company, effective August 29, 2025, following the receipt of regulatory approval. Mr. Ike will succeed Ms. Bolaji Agbede, who has served as the company's acting Group Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer for the past 18 months and has played a vital role in driving the company's performance. Due to regulatory stipulations on the required years of experience for a financial holding company's managing director, Ms. Agbede will revert to her substantive role as the company's executive director, business support. During Ms. Agbede's tenure, Access Holdco achieved significant milestones, including ensuring workforce stability and seamless transition following the demise of the former group chief executive officer, successful execution of the company's 351 billion naira rights issue, and seamless hosting of 2 annual general meetings of the company. Her leadership and strategic vision have not only maintained the company's momentum, but also strengthened its competitive position in the industry. Well, I must say congratulations to Ms. Agbede on a job well done, 18 months in the saddle as Managing Director, Group CEO of Access Holdings, following the unfortunate death of Mr. Herbert Wigwe, and to see her run so well. I'm really proud of the work that she's done, and as I've listed with I this morning, some of her achievements, having been at the helms of affairs. I'm glad that Access still has the privilege of retaining her as an ED, and hopefully we'll look to see what the future holds for her. Perhaps she might return to that position in the near future. But again, congratulations to her on a job well done.
Okay, congratulations to her, and congratulations to the Access family as they go through this period of transition. So I'd like to tie 2 topics together. President Tinubu in Brazil saying that we need tech, we need food security to be able to develop the economy. Yes, tech can actually develop the economy. When you look at the numbers, the biggest companies in the world today, market cap, are tech companies. We're talking about the likes of NVIDIAs of this world. We're talking about the likes of the Apples and the Googles of this world. Trillions of dollars in market cap. That's tech. Food security, very apt, because you need to be able to provide food to help the population. Nigeria today, we have a country where you have over 50% in post-harvest losses. Some conservative literature will tell you about 60% in post-harvest losses. It's not that we don't produce, but when we produce, we waste most of it. Secondly, there's a lot of low yield per hectare because of a lot of farming practices, so you need extension services and the likes. Hence, the talk about collaborations with some Brazilian companies, JBS and the likes, to be able to jumpstart that sector. We had the same collaborations with the Saudis before now, But a lot of these things, yes, announced. The question is, what's the follow-through? What is happening? After the announcement with JBS, we also got another announcement that they're going to come to Ogun State. What's the follow-through like? So if you want agriculture to work, let's go back to the announcement the president made after they pulled out subsidy. After they temporarily pulled out subsidy, because a year after we discovered that subsidy was not gone, and was when they jacked up petrol price to about 900 to 1,000 naira, they finally came out to say that they were still paying subsidy at some point after they claimed subsidy was gone. So, President Tinubu said we're going to cultivate millions of hectares. Where are the millions of hectares being cultivated today? Yes, we know Niger leads in a couple of seats. Famabago has been doing a great work. But is it going to be only about Niger? Where are the comparative advantages we should have in the crops? In the 60s, Nigeria used to have about 65% of the tomato produced in the West African sub-region from this country. Today, you have one case of tomato Ebola. You're having problems with tomato value chain. How can we help to build storage facilities, incentivize farmers, work on logistical chain, cold chain storage? Yeah, I hear that some over 1,000 cold chain storage devices were given to some government parastatal recently. That's a good one, but we need to be able to improve on that. The condition of the roads, rail, logistics, that's how you triumph in the agricultural sector, because you need to be able to feed yourself to a point that you look at the possibility of export. Tech ties with research. Research ties with the university. So when you look at it, you want to develop tech, but what is the funding like in the university? Student loans are good, but that's for students. What's the funding incentive for the university? The lecturers are poorly paid. Those that will dispense, knowledge to the students. They need to be better paid. I hear a reader gets about 500,000. Dr. Abati and I were having a conversation off the cuff yesterday, a very funny conversation, when he was saying, all this book where we read, you will see that there are people where they even can't read the book. Then they can't get the money. And I was encouraging that, you've done a good job at going to school. But when I now saw the numbers today, that a reader, close to a prof, spent 500,000 naira in this economy. That profs sleep in their offices and things like that. And those are the demands. Just imagine, we've been talking about ASUU for over how many years? 16 years. The pay is still poor. We never thought of bringing forward the case of ASUU to increase pay, but we're quick to say we want to increase the pay for politicians and all of that. So for you to be able to get tech working, you need the university ecosystem. You need research and development. The nations that go up there, they don't just go up there, they invest. Today, the internet that we're talking about, it was an American government investment. At some point, the internet we're talking about, Tim Berners-Lee was working in CERN in Switzerland, European Government Research Nuclear Agency. All right? The GPS system, a lot of NASA technology. So most of these big technologies you're seeing, there's also a government research component in grants and other things to this research. And for those things to work, your university ecosystem must work. You can't afford to owe ASUU. You can't afford to make the universities underfunded. You can't afford not to invest in research and development. So if you want to grow, it ties around the university ecosystem. That also even feeds into the food ecosystem you want to grow, because you need to develop new agricultural practices. You need to develop new agricultural technologies. And how do you do it? It ties back into university ecosystem. So the two things President Tinubu went to say in Brazil about tech, about food, about ecosystem, it all ties back into the knowledge base of the country. And that's why education is the heart of it all. This cannot develop without education. And that's why, Minister Alausa, we trust you to fix that problem with ASUU as soon as possible, so that we start moving on the education ladder, so that we can get those developmental goals we want right on track.
Great. All right. Dr. Bati, your take on this
story. Quite a list. But let me start with ASUU. Now, ASUU served notice and protests occurred in federal university campuses across the nation. And what is ASUU saying? What is the bone of contention? ASUU is saying that the federal government is now offering what they call the Tertiary Support Fund for teachers at the tertiary level. And ASUU is saying simply that, look, we don't want loans that will further deepen, improve, increase our liabilities
in terms of obligations. What we want is simply for the 2009 agreement agreed between ASUU and the federal government to be implemented in line with the principle of pacta sunt servanda, which simply means that agreements are sacrosanct. So the Tinubu administration has inherited a very difficult situation that has been lingering between ASUU and the federal government for 16 years. It's not that it's the Tinubu administration that created the problem. But this administration, let's first give them credit. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, an attempt has been made to address the issues. And this is the point being made by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. He said, for example, okay, he didn't say that, but let me quickly pull it up. The Tinubu administration, after the 2022 protest that lasted 8 months, paid 4 months of the arrears. The governors, the lecturers are saying, we want the remaining 3.5 months. 2, now to what Minister Alausa said. He says that end allowances have been paid by the Tinubu administration. That postgraduate supervision allowances have been paid, and that there is room for further negotiation, and that the government is willing to return to the 2009 agreement, and I think the subsisting Yayale Ahmed committee that is looking into these matters between, the Association of Universities, Staff Union of Universities and the federal government. So now today, they're going to meet, the various stakeholders will be there, and I think that in itself is a good development. But the major takeaway from the federal government of Nigeria should be, when you reach an agreement, whether it's about wage negotiation or conditions of service, you respect those agreements. The Nigerian government has a notorious reputation for not respecting agreements, whether in collective bargaining issues or contractual matters. And as we say, don't give us loan. Tertiary support fund. No. Respect the existing agreement. And I hope that the meeting today will be fruitful, as we expect. Now, but there's also the matter of ASUU, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics. ASUU has already served a 21-day notice. ASUU too is saying, respect existing agreements. Don't give us loan. We don't want loan. And I think it's very important to take the tertiary education system seriously. Previous administration may have damaged it. The Buhari administration may have tried to destroy it. But President Tinubu, having shown good faith in trying to restore the integrity of that, section of society, should remain committed to it. And he should take along in the negotiations today the concerns of ASUU. Polytechnic teachers are also saying they just want existing agreements to be respected. And I guess it's the same with non-academic staff unions at both the polytechnic level and also at the federal government level. We await the outcome of the negotiations today. Now, the next topic, President Tinubu in Brazil. Well, first, let us say, I'm impressed that President Tinubu returned early this morning. He didn't find cause to stop over.
Yes,
to go on a Kabu Jankara travel, Ajala travel all over the world. Because when he was going to Japan, he first stopped over in Dubai. And then he ended up in Japan. Then he left Japan. He headed towards Los Angeles, California. And then, disappeared for 24 hours. Then ended up in Brazil. And I wrote a piece and saying, look, if the president says, this is where I'm going, go there and come back. Don't engage in any peripatetic appearance and disappearance across the globe. And I was saying, please don't go to France, don't go to England, just come home. So I think the president listened. He came home directly to address important issues that are on the table. As for the trip to Brazil, I think it was a good trip. I think the optics look good. It was good to see him with President Lula. One of the points I made is that, look, there are lessons that Nigeria has to learn from Brazil. Once upon a time, Brazil and Nigeria were at the same level. In all the areas that Brazil succeeded, Nigeria failed. Petrobras. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says he wants Petrobras to come to Nigeria. Look, Petrobras was once here in Nigeria in our oil and gas sector. They left because of the inefficiency, the opaqueness, the lack of ambition of the Nigerian system. At a time when Petrobras set up headquarters in Houston, Texas. I think it's in Houston. Your Nigerian oil and gas experts were going to Houston to go and buy property. They were not focusing on the issues. At a time when Brazil was developing its own steel industry, developing power sector, your Nigerian experts were looking for money to be made. They were looking for commissions. And now today, we say, oh, we want to be like Brazil. No, the big issue here is about culture. The Nigerian government should pay attention to the difference in terms of culture. Brazil has a population of about 98 million black people. Hence, we talk about cultural and historical ties. But it has over 100 million population of Caucasians. Those Caucasians drive the economy because they are committed, because they are nationalistic, because they are patriotic. We need people in Nigeria who will be just as nationalistic and patriotic. And I'm not making a racist point. You need leadership at all levels. Nigeria says, oh, we have signed a memoranda of understanding with Brazil in aviation. Now there's going to be a special spot in Lagos where we'll be repairing aircraft and all that, and Nigeria will be an aviation hub. This same Murtala Mohammed Ikeja Airport used to be an aviation hub. These your same Nigerians mismanaged the entire process. In fact, I'm sure they stole all the things that were in that hangar, that special maintenance unit that was in that airport. That's not how countries that are ambitious behave. So they say they will sign other things, agriculture, food technology, food security. Yes. Nigeria at a time used to be a net exporter of agricultural produce during the First Republic. The Brazilians maintained, they stayed on path. Nigerians did not. So this is about cultural orientation. We need to study first and foremost the sociology of countries like Brazil that we admire, of countries like South Korea, of countries like Malaysia, of countries like Indonesia. How did those countries move forward? And Nigeria, since 1960, has remained in one place. Chinua Achebe resolved the matter by saying that leadership is the problem in Nigeria. Finally, PDP, Bala Mohammed, chairman of the party, says he has made a sacrifice. Okay, if you look at it, you see this is a man, who wants to promote inclusion, fairness, equity, justice. More so, the Nigerian constitution does not say you have to zone. There's nowhere there. So you can see that, okay, this is a political leader who is saying, well, I support power going to the south. But the governor of Bauchi State is not telling the full story. What is his motivation? Is he one of those supporting President Jonathan to come back? And what is in it for him? Is he saying he's making this sacrifice to support the South this time around because he's hoping that he will be a vice presidential candidate to whoever emerges from the South? And he can position himself for the future to also emerge and say, oh, let me remind you, I made a sacrifice to bring Nigeria to this moment. Now it is my turn. So there are subtextual things to, what these politicians say. Politicians also have a self-interest. Abamuru says it was a mistake for Atiku to have emerged. How is it a mistake? Go and ask him to explain it. Because the party formed a nomination committee, a zoning committee, And at the end of the day, in spite of the wranglings within the party, it was Atiku Abubakar that emerged. And that was why he was recognized by INEC to run as the presidential candidate of the PDP. They may have had internal problems. The question to ask Senator Abamuru, who are his paymasters? Who are the paymasters that he's dancing to, that is now talking like that? And then Samuel Otom, former governor of, where is that? Benue State, right? Benue State, yeah. He says, well, he will support the South when he knows who the candidate is. Okay, ask him, who is his candidate? Is it Jonathan that is being proposed? Or is it Peter Obi that people are saying should return to the party? Or is it Nyesom Wike, who may show up tomorrow and disappoint President Tinubu and say he too wants to get involved in the race on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, and he may just change the game and decide that he too wants to be president of Nigeria. Because I don't think all these politicians, they are speaking out of good faith. They are speaking out of their own self-interest. Let us investigate what is their self-interest.
All right. Okay, a number of things there. But let me try and see what I can get through with regards to the stories before us. Dr. Bata has already dissected PDP's matter and looking at the different points of view as postulated by some key members of the party. Later on today, we're going to be having a guest speak about the zoning. Not all in the party are pleased with the outcome of the zoning to the south. In fact, some of them are saying that they are sidelining, as it were, the north by this action. So hopefully we'll get that other side of the story and see if PDP is about to get themselves entrenched into further internal wranglings because some of the people within are disgruntled. Yesterday, Mr. Logwagba said that, well, it's part of the party's way. They'll come together and still speak to people who are not quite happy with the zoning. So a lot of things were still interesting. And they shouldn't forget that whoever emerges as a party bearer will still have to deal with, will still have to come up with a very tight campaign to face the incumbent in person of the APC and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I dare say that it's a tougher challenge for them than it was in 2023. And perhaps that's why Senator Abamoro said that with the benefit of hindsight, 2020 vision, they feel that they made a gross mistake by fielding Atiku Abubakar because in 2023, they perhaps had a better chance at the polls than they do now. And that mistake might actually they may not be able to come out of that mistake anymore because they had a great opportunity in 2023. Anyways, moving on forward to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's trip to Brazil. First of all, welcome back, Mr. President. Good to see you. You have a lot of issues on hand and a number of things to get through. One, of course, which the Minister of Education is currently handling, the ASUU strike. Let me actually let me stop by the ASUU, threat of strike before I land in Brazil or the President's trip to Brazil, because there's some astonishing things coming out, and I think it's important for Nigerians to understand just how bad the situation is with regards to our tertiary institution and the plight of our lecturers, the plight of people who are training your children, who have the future of Nigeria's bright minds in their hands, and the condition of service that they currently face. So it's not just about the salaries. In fact, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe, who is the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, paints a picture for us. Imagine that as a Vice Chancellor of a premier university such as the University of Lagos, his salary was 900,000 naira. His salary as a lecturer, as a professor, 700,000 naira. In fact, he said his son saw his payslip once and thought it was such a joke. That is what is happening in our nation, and that is why the lecturers, and so sometimes when we see lecturers go on strike or university staff go on strike, and we're quick to say, oh, they should face the business of raising these young talents and young stars of Nigeria, we must understand just how difficult. In fact, they say that some of the lecturers end up sleeping in the lecture rooms. Some of them have to drag with the students with getting onto buses, and then it makes you remember all the other things that have happened. Yesterday, I talked about how the honor and the prestige of being a lecturer is being eroded. And some of the reasons is because if you are dragging bus with your lecturer, why would you respect him in the lecture theatre? And these are some of the issues. And he talked about how the morale is eroding. If we don't take care of the people who take care of our future, then we do not have a good future in view. And I say this going back to Brazil. The president, as the chief marketing officer of Nigeria, has good news for diasporans in Nigeria. And I'll come to that because I think it's right signaling. He did the same thing in Japan when he visited Japan, met with the Nigerian community in Japan, and also did the same thing in in Brazil, and I thought, excellent. I don't think a number of leaders in the past have had the opportunity to do this in terms of holding sessions where they're able to speak. In my view, I said I don't think a lot of them. Some of them did. I'm just saying I don't think a lot of them did. I can't recall President Buhari hosting. I know in different parts, perhaps in the UK they did, but in going out, I'm glad that as part of his itinerary, he has consistently met with the Nigerian community in these places, and I'll explain the importance of that very shortly. But in terms of their speech, I thought it was quite hyperbolic. You know, they paint a good picture, and if you're going to sell a product, you will tell all the good things. Oh, students are now going back to school, corruption is over and all that, but we know the true things, and the news, unfortunately, headlines don't tell lies, and you see the reality on ground for people. So if you're saying students are going to school because they now have they have access to NEL fund, the loans, how about the teachers the lecturers who are supposed to teach them, who are supposed to lecture them, who have down their tools? So what is the point of being able to attend or go to university and there's no lecturer there to teach you? So you understand what I mean by when policies are good, but the enabling environments for them to thrive are not. But in terms of diaspora, I think this is a great point for us to be able to leverage some of the benefits from this. Number one, of course, we look at diasporans, our cultural ambassadors. Number two is the opportunity for investment here, and even the opportunity to glean from their knowledge. It's called brain circulation and brain transfer, whereby people who are gone abroad are able to use what they have learned abroad to benefit their home countries as a diasporan community. So I definitely encourage this. But in terms of conversations, like has already been mentioned, we're looking forward to conversations as to what will be the outcome for us. So maybe finally, after 16 years, there will be some reprieve and we can restore the dignity into our lecture theatres in our universities and tertiary institutions in Nigeria.